guys, and welcome to my extremely late review of chapter 850 of One Piece. And I think I'm gonna do this a little differently because usually I give you like mostly an unbiased opinion on the chapter and it's all very nice, but because this is so late and I've basically been talking to a lot of you, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp at what the fandom mostly thinks of this chapter and what it means for the future of One Piece. Of course, this is all in relation to pudding and the reveal of the end at the end here. So I'm just gonna quickly go through some of the things that wasn't pudding related, and then I'm gonna go straight into the pudding stuff, and then we're gonna talk about that and my opinion. I'm gonna do some of your opinions and just some things that I think people should keep in mind because, yeah, it was a good reveal. But let's get into it. Basically, we have Chopper in the beginning. I feel like, and he's going around with Carrot and Brule and the Chimney Dude, and it seems like they're looking for the castle because that's where everyone is, and they're kind of wondering if Luffy found Sanji, if they already met up and stuff like that, which we know they did, and yeah. And we've all been speculating, like, Chopper is definitely gonna play a big part because he can move around so freely, and like he's the only one of the Straw Hats who's in charge of their own situation, and the fact that they can move around freely and delay messages and just get information really quickly without anyone necessarily knowing, that's gonna be a huge plot point. And they're probably gonna be the second people to find out about pudding, whether they see it for themselves or they converse with Sanji. I don't know if either of those things are gonna happen, but I do feel like they're gonna find themselves in a situation kind of similar to Sanji in the end here, where they overhear a conversation that changes the story drastically in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just gaining the information that Pudding has been lying to them, or it's some other major twist about Big Mom, Levine Smokes, another one about Pudding that I'm gonna get into later. We are gonna get a little into theory territory, perhaps, but I think a lot of people find that fun anyway, so yeah. But I think Chopper is basically gonna play a really important part. I don't know if we're gonna see him again soon, but I do, because we are moving towards the end of this arc, as confirmed by Oda, and just in general, like how the story is going now with the pudding reveal. We have one of the big things revealed, and we're getting closer and closer to the wedding, and there seems to be very few things that could happen before the actual wedding at this point. So yeah, let's move on to Luffy and Nami, because basically their role was just to hype up the pudding reveal. And not much of actual stuff happened because they just yell at each other most of the time. But what I find really interesting is that one of you pointed out, first of all, that this is the first time, as far as I can recall at the very least, and this person as well, that Luffy has been betrayed by someone that he trusted. Because I remember like a few weeks ago, someone was in the favor of Pudding being like good person, because usually when Luffy trusts someone, they turn out to be good because he has good, like, I don't know, he makes good decisions like that, I don't know. But this time Pudding betrayed them, which is why Luffy is this angry, because that bitch literally betrayed us, what the heck. Which I find really interesting, because I do not for the life of me think that Pudding is as goody-goody as she seemed to be, and I'm gonna go into that later. So I find it really interesting that Oda did this, like he made Luffy trust someone and then had that trust be betrayed. But I just think that that's super interesting because this is kind of a new experience with Luffy, and I feel like at some point there must have been someone else who betrayed Luffy that he trusted, but I can't for the life of me think of that person right now. But another thing that I found really interesting that Luffy said is that him and Nami are of course like kind of trying to escape, like Luffy's like, rip off your hands and let's just get out of here, and he says to Nami, don't believe that someone is just magically gonna come and save us, like that's not gonna happen. Because that's usually what happens when our main characters are like in a pinch and something, like someone will come and help them, or I don't know, they'll just like rip two buildings apart, I don't know. But usually when they were captured by a crocodile in the banana water pit thing, Sanji came and saved them. Other times people came and saved them, probably like Impel Down, like stuff happens, magical saviors. And a lot of people so far have been like, oh my god, Jinbei's gonna come and save them, someone is gonna save them. And I feel like because we've had this discussion before, that when Luffy and Nami were in the field and the enraged army came for them, a lot of people were like, oh my god, who's gonna come and save them? Jinbei's gonna come and save them, someone is gonna come and save them. And I remember it was me and like some of you guys I talked about, we were all like, no one's gonna come and save them. And we were right, they were captured. Because I feel like this arc, it's gonna be a real eye-opener, whether they win or not in the end, or like how they get out of all of the situations. I feel like they're at a point now where they can't really rely on these magical miracles to just like come and save the day. Which of course the Straw Hats aren't people who rely on miracles anyway, but sometimes miracles do happen, like literally when Bucky tried to execute Luffy and a lightning came and saved him. Of course there are theories that Dragon did that, but still, like, miracles. But I just really like that line from Luffy because it does, I feel like someone could come and save them, and I really hope that that person is Sanji and not Jinbei. But I am struggling to figure out what Jinbei's role is gonna be, at the moment. Like, he's probably gonna play a big part because he's there, some pirates are there, and we don't know what happened to Jinbei, but at least the other some pirates are still there, and they are loyal to Luffy because of Jinbei and because of what happened on Fishman Island. And it's probably Praline, I feel like, is gonna play a big role because she, like a lot of other married daughters or sons, have like betrayed their mother in favor of their husbands / wives. I'm thinking of course of like, what's her name? Chiffon. Anyway, I do believe that it's gonna be either Sanji that's gonna come and save Luffy and Nami, or Luffy and Nami are gonna find some way out themselves, even though I don't feel like that's gonna happen. And of course they're not gonna rip off their arms, like they're not gonna pull a Zoro, because he didn't get to actually cut off his feet, but you know what I mean. Right, so let's talk about Pudding, because that's kind of what we're all like, we've all been waiting for, to find out, like, exactly, is she a good person, is she a bad person, like, what's up with the third eye, all that kind of stuff, like, and we finally got the reveal of the third eye, with the reveal that, oh my god, I am evil, muhahaha. And the thing with this is, there's still a lot of, like, arguments whether or not Pudding is genuine here or not, and as a big fan of Pudding is not a goody-goody, I of course believe her when she says, oh, I'm just acting and all that stuff. And of course we know that she's been acting, like, there's no way to not view her as a good actor, because if you believe she's a goody-goody, then of course she's acting in front of Reiju, and if she's not a goody-goody, then of course she's been acting and lying to the Straw Hats. And the thing is, I actually believe that she's lying in both situations, because, the people that still believe that Pudding is not as bad as she seems to be, usually refer to chapter, what is it, 848, where we have that flashback with Lola. I'm gonna put the panel here somewhere, because Pudding was not really putting up an act here, like it was a flashback of her seeing Lola leave, and she looked kind of sad as she stood on the balcony and it was raining and stuff like that. And while there was another person in the room, that person I think he left, and she was still kind of like with that serene, is serene even the right word, like with that weird expression. Again, panel. So a lot of people are still like, well, Pudding still wants to get married out of love and stuff like that, so she's not as bad as she seems, she just doesn't want to marry Sanji, and she's following her mother's orders and all of that stuff. And I don't really have a good answer for this, but I do believe that she's not pro Straw Hat. And I do believe, because there are still people who are like, oh, she's doing all of this to protect Sanji and to protect the Straw Hats. I don't believe that for a second. I do believe, though, that she might not be as insane as she comes across here. And I think the reason that she is playing up her insanity is because of Reiju. Because I feel like Reiju's presence is really important, because this was not, this is not Sanji just witnessing Pudding with her third eye and then laughing maniacally in the mirror and being like, oh my god, I hate Sanji so much. Like, if it had been like that, it would have been more of, okay, Pudding is legitimately insane. But no, she's with another person who is her enemy. Like, she says by the end of the chapter, we're gonna massacre the entire Beansmoke family. So, by all means, her and Reiju are enemies, and why the fuck would she be like, hey, Reiju, these are my true colors, and by the way, I'm gonna murder your entire family tomorrow. Like, there is legitimately no point in telling Reiju this unless she has, like, a plan. And the thing is, we know that the Big Mom family are good manipulators. We've known that from the moment that the Straw Hats turned up on the island, and we know that from the way Pudding has been acting, because she put them on the path to the forest, the seducing woods, and we know that, like, they manipulate people, they trick people, they lie to people to make them do what they want them to do, because voila, that's what happened in the seducing woods. So I do believe that there's a point in Pudding telling Reiju all this, and I do believe that Pudding is telling Reiju these things because... So I believe that Pudding is telling Reiju all of these things because she wants Reiju to act in a specific way. Whether that is to like mess up things even further, or I have absolutely no clue what it is that Pudding wants Reiju to do here. And the reason that I don't know is because I also don't know Reiju. Like, I cannot for the life of me figure Reiju out, because a lot of people, like I feel like 90% of the fandom really trusts Reiju and believes that either she is now or she will become an ally of the Straw Hats, which, I mean, it's not too far-fetched. I just don't like that idea, but I do believe that it is the most likely option, especially at this point, because Pudding turned out to be not a goody-goody. But it does seem like Pudding knows Reiju better than the audience at the very least. Another thing I want to point out is that Pudding did not necessarily seek out Reiju, because if you remember, I think it was last chapter, when the V-Smokes were having like their tea and they were talking, and then one of them offhandedly mentioned, oh, Reiju went out to do something, which means that Reiju was the one to go out and do something. Like, it wasn't that she was just like randomly going from the tea party to her quarters and then she was attacked by Pudding, who was like, I'm gonna set this plan in motion. No, Reiju did something. She did something she probably wasn't supposed to do. Pudding captured her, or injured her, captured her, whatever, and now she's telling her all this crap. And again, I feel like she's doing this because she wants Reiju to act in a certain way, but it could also be because she maybe wants to form an alliance with her or something, which would kind of go against what she's telling her that Big Mom wants, because Big Mom, at what it seems like now, Big Mom just, like, she wants a science, we knew that from the start, but to get that, she doesn't really care. She's just gonna slaughter all of them, because then she can just take it, because the Germa Kingdom is literally inside of Whole Cake Island, so they can just take it. But I actually don't know, because the thing is, I've said this before, Big Mom and her children, they are liars, and we know this because we've seen Big Mom lie straight to their faces, being like, oh my god, we're gonna be so great friends, and oh my god, the wedding's gonna be really good, and it's so perfect that Sanji and Pudding are marrying each other like they're both chefs, and it's gonna be really good, and it just doesn't line up with anything that Pudding says. And we also know that as soon as Big Mom just leaves the V-Smoke, she's like, oh my god, I hate them so much. So we know that they lie, which means that we cannot trust anything that comes out of anyone's mouths, even if it's like what we want to hear, because I feel like when we have a theory about something, like if you're pro-Pudding or if you're anti-Pudding, you will take all the science you can get of anti-Pudding and just like kind of close your eyes to the pro-Pudding stuff, and you'll do the same if you're pro-Pudding. Like, a lot of people do that. And I'm fully aware that I'm probably to blame for this too, because I really want Pudding to be this insane girl, but I also do see that there are inconsistencies, at least with chapter 848, 848, and just in general, because we cannot trust anything in this arc, and just because we have this reveal does not mean that we should trust the reveal. Lastly, I just want to point out that we still don't know the function of the third eye. I do believe that the third eye has a function. I am leaning more and more towards it being like hypnosis powers or something like that, because that makes sense in my head. I don't know who she should have used it on, because a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, she must have used them on Sanji to make him fall in love with her, or she could have used them on, I don't know, someone. But I feel like at this point, because I feel like I was wrong about Sanji just like faking it, but for me it feels like the reason that Sanji loved her was because he forced himself to love her, not because she did anything, because at that point he had basically just given up because of Seth and all that. And I want to talk a little bit about that though. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna make the best of my situation, I'm just gonna make myself love this girl because I do love all girls, like, that it can't be that hard. And she seems genuinely nice, which is why she breaks her heart by the end of this chapter, which oh my god, it was just the best scene ever, because Sanji needed that to like move forward and just do something of value, because as I don't remember if I talked about this in the live reaction, like by the end, or if I said this to someone, but this will be where Sanji will act, because Sanji had two main goals. Like, the reason that he did not act against the situation before was because he wanted to protect Seth, and he wanted to protect the Straw Hats. Now, Pudding did not tell Reiju and Sanji that she was planning, or that they were planning on killing the Straw Hats, but I'm pretty sure at this point Sanji will figure out that they are gonna kill the Straw Hats. Which means that if marrying Pudding will kill him and the Straw Hats no matter what, there's literally no point in going along with this because he cannot protect his captain and his friends. And they will have to like find some other way to kill Seth, but the thing is, at this point, the people who have threatened to kill Seth are not Big Mom Pirates, it's the Beansmokes. While it is the Big Mom Pirates who have the information, it's the Beansmokes who have that, like, who are like threatening to kill Seth, which means that it's probably their men who are gonna kill him. Which then means if the Beansmokes are the one getting killed at the wedding, like, there's no point in them like holding that over Sanji because they don't gain anything from it if they just die anyway. So Sanji no longer has anything over him except for the handcuffs, which if he were to meet up with Luffy, Luffy could take care of those handcuffs because of Haki. Also, I have said this multiple times, the bento that Sanji made, even though it was originally supposed to go to Pudding, this is so much of a Luffy bento, there's no way in fucking hell he won't give it to Luffy. Also because Luffy needs the food to fight, because he is on a hunger strike. Unless Sanji gives him food, he won't eat. If Luffy doesn't eat, he won't be able to fight. And at this point, a fight is definitely coming, a big, big fight. Also, there has been speculation whether or not the Straw Hats will team up with the Beansmokes. And the thing is, I really, really do not believe that the Straw Hats, or just Luffy in general, would put aside the horrible, horrible things the Beansmokes have done to just be like, hey, let's just team up for like an hour to take Big Mom down. Because the thing is, Luffy is stubborn. And while we have seen Luffy team up with his enemies, like Impel Down, he teamed up with Crocodile and the rest of the remains of Baroque Wars and stuff like that. But I just feel like, one, that situation was so different, and it was like the enemy thing he had with Crocodile at this point was very different because, one, they had something over Crocodile, they had Iwo-chan. Luffy was against teaming up with Crocodile, but they ended up doing it anyway. They needed him to get out. So they legitimately did not have a choice if they wanted to get out of Impel Down, and they did end up fighting a little bit along the way. And just at that point in time, Crocodile was like, okay, I don't have any interest in Alabasta anymore, and like there are a lot of things going on that I feel like justified, and also because I just like Crocodile, that made sense for Luffy and Crocodile to team up in that situation. But I just don't believe that it will work out in this arc, that Luffy should team up with the Beansmokes, because the thing is, there are also other people on this island. We still have yet to figure out what exactly Caesar's role will be, because whether or not he's actually working on the Giantification drug, like, he's doing something, he must be doing something, and he will be of value to them, because I feel like he will continue to wanna with them, because there's nothing left for him in Big Mom's territory, like, he will be killed. We also have Capone, who we all know is gonna mess stuff up. And we have the Sun Pirates, as I've mentioned like 1,000 times before. While I still don't know like the direct role they will play, as I've said, they will be of aid to the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats have their entire crew on their side. And we have, like, on this island we have so many species and races, and I feel like the Minks would go behind them if Pager was there, and stuff will happen. Like, they have allies to gain, and they are not Luffy's not in that bad of a situation as he was in Impel Down. So I just don't believe that they will team up with the Beansmokes. And also, the Beansmokes have just like been built up for so long to be these horrible, horrible people. Like, we all want Sanji to kick Nikki's ass. There's no way that, I just feel like there's no way that's not gonna happen. The next time they see each other, Sanji will fuck him up. And I also feel like Luffy really needs to punch Judge's stupid face, because that needs to happen. I don't know about Yonji. I feel like he could be taken out pretty quickly by whoever. I still don't know about Ichiji, because I feel like he is, like, of the brothers, excluding Sanji, because I don't know where Sanji stands at this point. He is definitely the strongest of the brothers. but I also don't know about his personality because he seems so calm. Like he's an asshole, but nowhere near the same level of assholiness as Niji. So I feel like he could potentially be an okay person, but I also feel like I'm wrong about that. I just feel like his character could go anywhere because we don't know shit about him. Reiji, of course, seems more and more likely to become a good person, but I would much rather have her be like in a more of a gray zone. So she kind of just fights for herself and ends up being the queen of the German kingdom. Like, that's like what I want. Endgame for Reiji for me is just her being the queen of the German kingdom. It doesn't even matter if she's an ally or an enemy at this point. I just want her to be queen of Germa. But I just don't feel like we'll see a legitimate alliance between the German kingdom and the Straw Hats. I just don't feel that happening. They could maybe ally themselves with Reiju, potentially Ichiji if he turns out to be somewhat of a good person. Yonji could even turn out to be somewhat of a good person, but definitely not Judge, who at the very moment is the head, and definitely not Niji, who is the worst person on the face of this earth. Probably. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. Now, I feel like I did miss a few things, a few discussion points, but if I did, you can just leave it in the comments below because this video is hella long, considering that my camera just kind of like stopped filming 2 times, meaning that this is definitely over 20 minutes. But yeah, let's continue the discussion in the comments below. I think I got most of my thoughts out, so yeah, you can like, you can please comment, I really appreciate that, and you can subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time, bye!